I never thought freedom would come with silence. No screaming, no tears, just 4 small words. Ask your wife's family. And when I pressed send, I didn't realize those words would end 8 years of guilt, exhaustion, and quiet humiliation. That morning, the sun poured through my kitchen window like any other day, but something inside me had shifted forever. The woman staring back at me from the reflection on the kettle wasn't the same one who used to drop everything at her son's first call. She wasn't the same woman who'd spent years keeping everyone else's life afloat, except her own. But to understand what brought me to that moment, to that quiet rebellion, you have to know what came before. Because before that, freedom came heartbreak. 3 weeks earlier, I was in my living room folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Mom, we had to cancel the family trip. Finances won't allow it this year. We'll reschedule later. That's what my son Marcus wrote. I remember reading the message and smiling softly, though my heart sank just a little. We'd been talking about that trip for months, a long overdue family getaway. It was supposed to be my first real vacation since my husband Earl passed 8 years ago. Don't worry, baby, I typed back. I understand, and I truly meant it. I believed every word. See, Marcus has always been that kind of man. Charming, convincing, the kind of son who could make his mother proud, just by saying the right thing at the right time. I thought I'd raised a good man, one who understood gratitude, one who remembered the sacrifices that raised him. But I was wrong. Because 3 weeks after that text, while sitting at my kitchen table sipping lukewarm tea, I opened Instagram and saw a post that would shatter everything I believed about my own family. There they were. Marcus, his wife Chantel, and their 2 kids, Jamal and Naomi, standing on the deck of a cruise ship. The Caribbean sun glowed behind them like a golden halo. My son was wearing a white linen shirt, smiling wide, cocktail in hand. Chantel looked stunning in a coral-colored dress that probably cost more than my month's pension. And there, clinking glasses beside them, were her parents, Eleanor and Charles Holt. Not me. The caption read, "Unforgettable family vacation." That word, unforgettable, cut through me like glass. For a long time, I just stared at that photo. My breath felt trapped somewhere between my chest and my throat. I scrolled down and saw more. Pictures of them dining at candlelit tables, laughing in sun hats, posing on white sand beaches. It was a full family vacation. Their faces glowed with joy and warmth. The same warmth I'd been begging for all these years. And not one of those smiles was meant for me. I didn't cry. I didn't even call them. I just sat there in silence, but something inside me cracked, and when it did, it didn't heal. You know, when you get older, especially when you're a mother, people think your love has no boundaries. They think you're an endless well that never runs dry. I used to think that too, but wells do run dry, and sometimes, when they do, the only sound left is the echo of everything you gave away. Marcus's betrayal didn't come out of nowhere. It was just the final drop in a cup that had been overflowing for years. After Earl passed away, I was lost. 53 years I worked as a nursing aide and janitor at the local hospital. Every penny I saved went toward our house, our son's education, and the life we built together. When Earl died, the silence in that little 2-bedroom home became unbearable. Marcus saw that loneliness. He knew how to comfort me, and how to use that comfort. 2 months after the funeral, he came over with Chantel. I can still see him sitting on my old floral couch, his eyes soft, his voice low. "Mom," he said, "Naomi's turning 16. We want to throw her something special, but with everything going on, it's hard to make ends meet. Could you help us out a little? Just a small loan. We'll pay you back in 6 months." A loan. That's what he called it. I looked at Chantel, who smiled like a pageant queen. "It's just a temporary thing, Ruby. We want her to feel loved, you know? Especially after all the sadness lately." Of course I understood. I was a grandmother. It's what we do, understand. So I transferred the $10,000. The party was beautiful, I'll admit. A private hall, lights, music, a chocolate fountain taller than me. Naomi looked radiant. She even hugged me in front of her friends. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. For the first time since Earl died, I felt like I mattered again. But the repayment never came. And I didn't ask. Because when you're a mother, asking for money back feels like demanding love that was supposed to be given freely. Then came the next request. And the next. The kitchen pipes are leaking, Mom. The whole place smells of mold. We just need $8,000. My car broke down, Mom. I can't get to work. Mom, Jamal got accepted to that private university. It's $15,000 a year, but we'll pay you back. We promise. I said yes every time. Because that's what mothers do. We say yes. I told myself it was temporary, that I was helping them build a stable life. But years passed, and the requests never stopped. My savings drained, my pension shrank, and my house, the only thing I truly owned, started to feel like it belonged to them. And each time I gave, they came around a little less. Each call was shorter, each visit more rushed. Sometimes they'd swing by just long enough for coffee and a new excuse. Still, I convinced myself it was fine. Because what's the alternative? Admit that the people you love most only come around when they need something? No mother wants to believe that. But the signs were there. Like the day I drove by their house and saw a brand new SUV in the driveway. Marcus told me it was borrowed from a friend. A month later, Chantel was posting pictures driving it to brunch, or the time Naomi mentioned her class trip to Europe, the one that cost $3,000 just a month after. Marcus had told me they were barely scraping by. I ignored it all. Because loneliness makes you blind. One night, I sat in my living room with my old neighbor Dot. She's 70, sharp-tongued but kind. She looked at me over her mug and said, "Ruby, you're not a mother to them anymore. You're a wallet." I laughed it off then, but her words stung deep. Later that night, I opened my bank statements for the first time in years. Line by line, I added every payment, every loan, every gift I'd sent their way. $10,000 for Naomi's party, $8,000 for the kitchen, $12,000 for Chantel's car, $45,000 for Jamal's tuition, $3,000 for the class trip, $2,000 for the club membership, little extras here and there, groceries, doctor bills, birthday gifts, emergencies. When I hit the final total, the number on the screen blurred through my tears. $62,362,000. Gone. It wasn't just money. It was years of my life. Of trust. Of trying to buy a place in my own family. That night, I sat in the dark and asked myself a question no mother ever wants to ask. Would they still love me if I had nothing left to give? The next morning, Marcus called. "Mom, we had to cancel the family cruise. The economy's rough. We'll just stay home this summer." And I believed him. Because hope, even when it's foolish, dies last. 3 weeks later came that Instagram post. And just like that, hope died too. When I saw those photos, those smiles bought with my sacrifices, something inside me changed. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't confront them. I waited. 3 weeks passed after they returned home. Silence. No apology. No explanation. Not even a phone call. Until one morning, at exactly 7 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Marcus. Mom, I urgently need $6,000. Credit card issue. I'll pay you back next month." I read that text 5 times. Every word was a slap. And then, for the first time in 8 years, I said no. 4 words. "Ask your wife's family." I pressed send. My heart raced, but it didn't break. That text, those 4 little words, were my first act of freedom. He called 17 times that day. I didn't answer once. Chantel sent me a long message full of half-baked excuses and emotional manipulation. It was a surprise. You misunderstood. It wasn't what it looked like. But I deleted it halfway through. That same afternoon, I went to the bank and closed our joint account. I canceled every automatic transfer, every extra card that had their names on it. And when I walked out of that bank, I swear the air felt different. Cleaner, lighter, like I was finally breathing for the first time in years. But this isn't where the story ends. Because freedom isn't a single moment. It's a journey. One that starts with heartbreak and ends with a truth that sets you free. And mine was just beginning. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No phone buzzing. No one asking for anything. No guilt sitting on my chest. For the first time in years, I made breakfast just for myself. 2 scrambled eggs, a slice of toast, and coffee brewed the way I liked it, not the way Marcus preferred when he visited. The air smelled like freedom. It also smelled like fear, because as much as I wanted to believe I'd taken control, a part of me still trembled. What if I'd gone too far? What if I'd just ruined whatever was left of my family? But then I remembered those cruise photos, the smiles, the champagne, the lies. And I realized something. The family I thought I had didn't exist anymore. That morning, I sat on the porch with my cup of coffee and a notebook. I wrote one question at the top of the page. Who am I when no one needs me? It was the hardest question I'd ever faced. For so long, my identity had been built around giving. As a wife, as a mother, as a caretaker. I didn't know how to exist without someone pulling on me from every direction. I spent that whole morning writing. Memories of Earl, the early years with Marcus, the dreams I'd once had before life became a list of responsibilities. By noon, my hands ached from writing, but my heart felt just a little lighter. That's when I decided I needed to do something I hadn't done in decades. I needed to take care of me. 2 days later, I drove to the old community center where I used to volunteer. The building hadn't changed much. Chipped blue paint, faded posters about blood drives and bingo nights. I almost turned around, but something made me stay. Inside, I found a group of women around my age sitting in a circle, laughing softly. A sign read, Silver Hearts, Women Rebuilding After Loss. I hesitated at the door. One woman looked up, tall silver curls, gentle eyes. You're welcome to join, she said with a smile. We're just talking about new beginnings, new beginnings. The words sounded foreign, like a language I'd forgotten. I sat down, half nervous, half curious. They talked about everything. Husbands who'd passed, children who'd grown distant, dreams they'd buried under years of caretaking. It was raw, unpolished, and real. When it was my turn, I said quietly, I'm Ruby. I'm trying to learn how to stop giving to people who only take. There was a murmur of understanding. One woman reached over and touched my hand. That's the hardest lesson of all, she said. But it's the one that'll save your life. That day, something began to heal. Slowly, gently. Later that week, the calls from Marcus started again. At first, he tried politeness. Hey Mom, just checking on you. Haven't heard from you in a while. Then came guilt. You don't even want to see your grandkids? Naomi's been asking why Grandma doesn't call. And finally, anger. I can't believe you'd turn your back on your own family after everything I've done for you. That one made me laugh bitterly. After everything he'd done for me? But I didn't reply. Silence can speak louder than words. And this time, it screamed. A week later, Chantel showed up at my doorstep. She looked perfect, as always. Flawless makeup, expensive purse slung on her arm. But her smile was tight. Hi, Ruby, she said. Can I come in? I hesitated but stepped aside. She walked in like she owned the place, glancing around my living room as if inspecting it. Marcus is really upset, she began. He feels like you've abandoned us. The kids miss you. We don't understand why you're acting this way. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone who had never known the value of sacrifice. Someone who had never worked 2 jobs just to pay for someone else's dream. I'm acting this way, I said calmly, because I finally learned the difference between helping and being used. Her jaw tightened. We never used you, I smiled sadly. Then tell me, Chantel, when was the last time you called me without needing something? She didn't answer. She just looked away, her silence saying everything I needed to know. Before she left, she said one last thing, her voice cold. You're going to regret cutting us off, Ruby. Family is all you have. When the door closed, I whispered to myself, No, Chantel. Peace is all I have now. A month passed. The silence that once felt heavy now felt holy. I started going to the Silver Hearts meetings every Thursday. I met Evelyn, a retired teacher who'd lost her son to addiction, Lorraine, who'd been divorced after 40 years, and June, who'd survived breast cancer twice. They became my people, women who understood pain but chose to rise anyway. We laughed. We shared recipes. We even took walks in the park on Sunday mornings. For the first time in years, I felt part of something real, a community built on healing, not taking. One day after our meeting, Evelyn said, "Ruby, you ever think about traveling?" I laughed. "With what money?" She winked. "You'd be surprised what the world gives back when you stop giving to the wrong people." That night, her words echoed in my mind. Traveling. The thought terrified and thrilled me. I'd spent my whole life watching other people live. Maybe it was time I started living too. A few weeks later, I was sorting through an old box of Earl's things when I found a small envelope with my name on it. Inside was a note in his handwriting. "Ruby, promise me you'll see the ocean again. You used to love the sea. Don't let life harden your heart." I pressed that note to my chest and cried. I hadn't been to the ocean since our honeymoon, over 40 years ago. Life had swallowed that girl who once ran barefoot through waves, laughing like the world was hers. Maybe it was time to find her again. The next morning, I went to the bank. The teller recognized me, a kind young man named Luis. "How can I help you today, Ms. Thomas?" I smiled. "I want to move $70,000 into a separate account, one with just my name on it." He nodded. "Absolutely. Do you want to set up any recurring transfers?" "No," I said firmly. "No more transfers." When the papers were signed, I walked out feeling taller. That money wasn't for Marcus or Chantel or anyone else anymore. It was for me. That night, I went online and booked something bold, a week-long trip to Charleston, South Carolina. The city where Earl and I spent our honeymoon. It wasn't the Caribbean. It wasn't a cruise. But it was mine. The weeks leading up to the trip were filled with small joys. I bought a new suitcase, bright teal, the color of freedom. I pulled out old photos of me and Earl and smiled at our younger faces. Dot helped me pick out outfits, fussing like a proud sister. "You're gonna turn heads, Ruby," she said, laughing. For once, I didn't feel like someone's mother or grandmother. I felt like me. The night before my trip, Marcus called again. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I needed to. "Mom," he said quietly, "I heard from Chantel that you're going on vacation?" "Yes," I said. "I am," he paused. "With who?" "With myself." There was a long silence. "Mom, what's gotten into you lately? You're acting different." "I'm finally acting like a woman who knows her worth," I replied. His tone hardened. "You're making a mistake. We're family. You can't just cut us off like that." "I didn't cut you off, Marcus. You did that the day you chose to lie to me." He didn't respond for a while. Then he said, "I didn't mean to hurt you, Mom." I sighed softly. "Maybe not. But you did, and now I need to heal from that." "Are you saying you don't forgive me?" I thought for a moment. Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. I forgive you, Marcus, but I won't forget who I became while loving you blindly. He exhaled sharply. "You've changed." "I hope so," I said. "Because the old me would have sent you money just to keep the peace." And then, for the first time, he hung up on me. The next morning, I boarded that train to Charleston. As it rolled out of the station, I looked out the window and saw the world pass by. Trees, small towns, rivers glittering in the sunlight. With every mile, I felt lighter. At one point, a woman across from me smiled. "First time traveling alone?" she asked. I nodded. "First time doing a lot of things alone." She laughed softly. "Feels scary, huh?" "It does," I said. "But it also feels right." She patted my hand. "Then you're on the right train." When I stepped off in Charleston, the air hit me. Warm, salty, full of memory. The city looked just like it had in the photos. Cobblestone streets, pastel houses, and the faint sound of jazz drifting from a cafe. I checked into a small bed and breakfast by the water. The woman at the desk, Miss Helen, was in her 60s and reminded me of my sister who'd passed years ago. "You traveling solo?" she asked. "Yes," I said proudly. "Well, you just made my day," she said. "Women who travel alone are the bravest kind." That night, I stood on the balcony watching the moonlight shimmer on the water. I closed my eyes and whispered, "I made it, Earl." For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. I felt alive. But life has a way of testing new beginnings. On my third day there, while having breakfast at a small cafe, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Naomi, my granddaughter. "Grandma, I miss you. Can I call you?" My heart skipped. I hadn't heard from her in months, not since the cruise. I hesitated before typing back. "Of course, baby. I'd love that." A few minutes later, her voice came through, shaky and quiet. "Grandma, Mom and Dad are fighting. Dad's been drinking a lot. He said he wishes he could talk to you, but you won't answer." I felt my chest tighten. "Oh, sweetheart." "He's not okay," she said, her voice trembling. "Can you please come home, please?" The cafe around me faded into silence. The ocean breeze suddenly felt cold. And just like that, the peace I'd found was threatened by the same storm I thought I'd escaped. When your phone rings with a child's voice in tears, something ancient wakes up inside you. Something deeper than logic, stronger than pride. Naomi's words had cracked open a part of my heart I thought I'd sealed shut. I sat there in that little Charleston cafe, coffee cooling in my hand, listening to her sob quietly on the other end of the line. "Grandma, Daddy's been drinking every night," she whispered. "Mom says it's your fault." I froze. "My fault?" "Yeah. She said you cut him off and that's why he's so stressed. She said you turned your back on us." For a long moment, I couldn't speak. The room around me blurred. The clinking dishes, the laughter of tourists, the sound of the ocean nearby. "Baby," I said softly. "Grown-ups sometimes say things they don't mean when they're hurting. You didn't do anything wrong, and neither did I. Your daddy's just figuring out how to stand on his own 2 feet. Naomi sniffled. "I just want you to come home. It doesn't feel right without you." That did it. The grandmother in me overpowered the woman who'd just begun to heal. "I'll be home soon, sweetheart," I said, my voice breaking. "Everything's going to be okay." When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, staring out at the water. I'd come all this way to find peace, and peace had found me. But love, even when it's wounded, has a way of calling you back. I packed my suitcase that night. The train ride home felt longer this time. Every mile closer to that house brought back a mix of dread and duty. I kept replaying Naomi's words in my mind. "Mom says it's your fault. Blame." It's funny how mothers are always the easiest target for it. By the time I reached my stop, the skies had turned gray. A storm was brewing, the kind that rattles the windows and shakes loose old ghosts. When I pulled up to my house, I saw a car parked out front. Marcus's car. He was sitting on the porch steps, head in his hands, a beer bottle resting beside him. For a moment, I just watched him through the rain-speckled windshield. He looked nothing like the confident man I'd raised. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes hollow. I took a deep breath and stepped out. He didn't look up until I was halfway to the porch. "Hey, Mom," he said quietly. "Marcus." We stood there in silence, rain pattering on the roof. "I didn't know where else to go," he finally said. "Chantel took the kids to her mother's. She said she needs space." I crossed my arms. "Space from what?" "From me," he said, voice cracking. "From the mess I've made," I sighed. "Come inside." The house smelled faintly of lavender and lemon cleaner, the way I liked it. I set my suitcase down and motioned for him to sit. He sank into the couch, rubbing his temples. "I've really messed up, Mom." "Tell me," I said softly. He stared at the floor. "It started after Dad died. I didn't tell you everything, but I lost my job 6 months after the funeral. I couldn't handle the pressure. I started taking side gigs, then loans. I thought I could fix it, but it kept spiraling. Why didn't you come to me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Because you'd already lost enough. I didn't want to look weak. He gave a bitter laugh, so I pretended. I borrowed from Chantel's parents, from friends, from anyone who'd believe I had a plan. And when they stopped lending, I turned to you. My throat tightened. So all those emergencies, most were real, he said. Some weren't. I told myself it was temporary. That I'd pay you back once I got a new job, once the business picked up, once the house sold. I nodded slowly. And the cruise? He winced. That was Chantel's idea. Her parents offered to pay, and she didn't want to tell them we were broke. I told her we couldn't go, but she said it would make us look bad. I lied to you because I didn't want you to know how far we'd fallen. I stared at him. My son, the boy I'd raised to be honest, hardworking, kind. Now, sitting before me, unraveling. You could have just told me the truth, I whispered. I was ashamed, he said. And when you texted that message, ask your wife's family, I realized what I'd done. You were right to cut me off. He buried his face in his hands. Now I'm broke, Mom. The business failed. The credit cards are maxed out. Chantel's furious. I don't even know where to start. For a long moment, I said nothing. The part of me that wanted to rescue him, to fix everything, was screaming. But another part, the new part, was calm. You start, I said gently, by standing up. He looked up, confused. You stand up, Marcus. You take responsibility. You apologize to your wife, to your kids. You get a job, any job. You stop blaming and start rebuilding. He blinked. You're not going to help me this time, are you? I shook my head. No, because the best help I can give you now is to let you figure it out yourself. He sat there in silence, tears glistening in his eyes. You've changed, Mom, he said softly. I had to, I replied. Otherwise, I'd still be the woman paying for everyone else's mistakes. That night, after he left, I sat alone in the dark. The storm had quieted, but inside me something still rumbled. Had I done the right thing? Could a mother ever truly stop being a mother? I went to my room and pulled out Earl's letter again, the one about seeing the ocean. I traced the words with my fingers and smiled sadly. Earl, I whispered. I think I finally saw it. Not just the sea, but myself. The next few weeks were quiet. Marcus didn't call. Chantel didn't either. But Naomi sent me small messages every few days. Pictures of her drawings, updates about school, little hearts at the end of every text. Then one afternoon, she called again. Grandma, Daddy got a job. I smiled so wide my cheeks hurt. He did? Yeah. He's working at some construction company. He said it's hard work, but he's doing it. He said to tell you. Thank you. I blinked back tears. He told you to say that? She giggled. He said you'd understand. I did. I understood everything. Sometimes love isn't about giving people what they want. It's about letting them face what they need. As the months passed, I began to build a new rhythm. My mornings were filled with walks, my afternoons with writing, and my evenings with quiet gratitude. I even started helping at the community center again. Not with money this time, but with time and heart. Evelyn called me the comeback queen. One day after our meeting, she said, You ever think about writing your story, Ruby? I think a lot of women could learn from you. I laughed. Who'd want to hear about a tired old woman learning boundaries too late? She grinned. Every woman who's ever been taken for granted. I thought about it that night. Maybe my story could help someone else climb out of the hole I'd been in. Maybe that's why God had let me go through it, to pull someone else out. So I started writing, little by little. Memories, lessons, heartbreaks, small victories. I called it The Cost of Love. One crisp autumn morning, while riding on my porch, I saw Marcus's car pull up again. This time he wasn't slumped or broken. He stepped out wearing work boots and a flannel shirt, looking stronger, older somehow. Hey, Mom, he said with a soft smile. Hey, baby, I said, standing up. He handed me a brown envelope. "This is for you." Inside was a check, $5,000. "What's this?" "A start," he said. "For what I owe you." "I can't pay it all back, but I'm trying." Tears welled in my eyes. "Marcus, you don't—" "I do," he interrupted. "You were right. I had to hit rock bottom to realize how much I took from you. Not just money, but time, trust, respect. I can't fix the past, but I can change now." I pulled him into a hug, feeling the weight of all those years finally lift. "I'm proud of you," I whispered. He smiled. "I'm trying to be the man Dad wanted me to be." And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Marcus and I sat on the porch sipping lemonade. "You know," he said, "Naomi's been working on a school essay about the person who inspires her most." I laughed. "Who'd she pick?" He grinned. "You," I pressed my hand to my chest. "Me?" She said, "My grandma taught me that love doesn't mean losing yourself. It means knowing when to say no." Tears filled my eyes again. "That girl's got more wisdom than all of us put together." Marcus chuckled. "She gets it from you." We sat in comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't need fixing. Later that night, I got a text from Chantel. "Ruby, I just wanted to say thank you for being patient with Marcus. He's really trying. I hope we can start over." I looked at that message for a long time. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I whispered, "Lord, I leave that bridge to you." Because sometimes healing doesn't need words, just time. A few weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail, no return address. Inside was a photo. It was of Marcus and the kids at a small beach, the kind you'd find along the Carolina coast. In the corner, someone had written, "Wish you were here, Grandma. We love you." I smiled, not the kind of smile that hides pain, the kind that blooms from peace. That night, I sat on my porch under a sky full of stars. I thought about everything I'd lost, and everything I'd gained. I used to think freedom meant being alone. Now I knew the truth. It meant being whole, and somewhere deep inside, I felt Earl beside me whispering, "You did good. Ruby." I closed my eyes, the sound of the night wrapping around me like a promise. Tomorrow would come, and for the first time in years, I was ready for it. But as the wind rustled through the trees, my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "Mrs. Thomas, this is regarding your late husband's property. We believe there are unresolved documents that could change ownership." My heart skipped. Property? Ownership? I read it again. "Please contact us immediately." Just when I thought my past was buried for good, it seemed Earl had one more secret waiting to be uncovered. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Robert smile, his hand reaching for mine across the table, his voice telling me, "It's just for a little while. Clara, I promise." But it had never been just for a little while. The next morning, I went into the kitchen to make coffee, and there he was, Randall, sitting at the counter, sipping from my favorite mug like he'd lived here his whole life. "Morning," he said, like nothing had happened last night. "Coffee's good. I hope you don't mind that I made a pot." I crossed my arms. "You've been here less than 24 hours and already acting like it's your home." He gave that sly little grin, the same one I remembered from years ago when he used to charm everyone with a joke. But this time it didn't work. His charm had aged into arrogance. "I'm just making myself useful," he said. "You always liked a man who could handle himself in the kitchen." "Don't," I snapped. "Don't talk like you know me, Randall. You don't." His eyes softened, but it didn't fool me. "I did once," he said quietly, "and I think I still do." I turned away, my hands trembling slightly as I reached for a cup. "You're only here because Robert wanted you here," I said. "Don't mistake that for anything else." He stood, walked to the window, and looked out toward the garden Robert and I had planted together. "I didn't come back to cause trouble, Clara," he said. "But there's something I need to tell you. Something about Robert." I froze. "What about him?" Randall hesitated. "Not now. You're already upset. Tell me." My voice came out sharper than I intended. You don't get to dangle something like that in front of me." He turned, his expression grave now. "There was a letter. Robert wrote it before he died. He asked me to give it to you." My heart stuttered. "A letter?" He nodded slowly. "He wanted me to wait until you were ready. I thought maybe now might be the time." I didn't say a word as he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an old folded envelope. My name was written on the front, in Robert's handwriting. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My fingers shook as I took it. The paper felt fragile, like it might crumble from the weight of what it held. Randall left the room quietly, giving me space. I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the envelope for a long time before finally breaking the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Robert's familiar scrawl filled the page. "My dearest Clara, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you in person. I've carried a weight for many years, one that I can't take with me in peace. I need you to know the truth about the beach house, about Randall, and about what really happened all those years ago." My breath caught. You always believed the beach house was bought with my savings, but it wasn't. Randall helped me. He gave me the money when we were struggling, when the bank refused us. I told you it was from my work because I didn't want you to think less of me. But that lie grew, Clara. It built walls between us. Randall didn't want the money back. He wanted something else. He wanted me to promise that if anything ever happened to me, you'd help him get back on his feet. That was the deal I made, and I'm ashamed of it now. Please forgive me. The letter blurred through my tears. I clutched the paper to my chest, shaking. Oh, Robert. So this was it. The reason Randall was here. The reason he felt entitled to my home, my peace. Robert had made him a promise, and now that promise had come due. The front door creaked open, and I heard footsteps. Randall was back. "Did you read it?" he asked softly. "Yes," I said, my voice trembling. "I read every word," he nodded, eyes unreadable. "Then you understand why I came." "What I understand," I said, standing, "is that you're using my husband's guilt to manipulate me. You think because he owed you, I owe you too." He stepped closer. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" He hesitated. "I'm in trouble, Clara. I've lost everything. The house, the business, even my kids won't talk to me. I don't have anywhere else to go. Robert made me a promise, and he made you part of it." His words hit like a stone to the chest. "So you expect me to just hand over my life because you made bad choices?" "No," he said quietly. "I expect you to remember the man your husband was. He wanted to help me. He trusted me. Trusted you?" I said, my voice rising. "You betrayed that trust years ago!" He flinched. "You think I don't know that?" There was a long silence. Only the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock filled the air. Then he said, almost in a whisper, "Robert forgave me. I was hoping you could too." I couldn't look at him. "Forgiveness doesn't mean you move into my home, Randall. It doesn't mean you get to erase what you did." He didn't reply. He just nodded, the weight of years settling on his shoulders. Later that afternoon, I went to the garden to clear my head. The roses had overgrown, wild and tangled, but still beautiful. Robert had loved them. As I knelt to prune a stem, I heard Randall's voice behind me. "You know, Robert used to sit out here every evening. Said the garden reminded him of you." "Then he remembered me wrong," I said softly. "I've let too many things wither." Randall came closer. "You haven't. You just stopped believing in new beginnings." His tone was gentle, but it stirred something inside me I didn't want to feel. "Stop trying to sound like him," I whispered. "You're not Robert, I know," he sighed. "But I loved him too, in my own way. He was my brother, even after everything that happened." I looked at him then, and for the first time, I saw the years carved into his face, the regret, the loneliness, maybe even a hint of truth. That night, as the sun dipped low and the cicadas sang, I sat on the porch with Robert's letter on my lap. I read it again, slower this time, looking for hidden meaning, for some final message between the lines. And at the bottom, there it was, something I'd missed before. "Clara, if Randall ever finds his way back to you, please don't turn him away. I trust your heart to know what's right." I pressed a hand to my mouth. Robert had known. He'd known Randall would come. He'd planned for it, but why? I couldn't sleep again that night. My mind replayed every word, every look, every silence between them. There was something more here, something Robert hadn't said. The next morning, I found Randall in the garage, tinkering with the old radio Robert used to fix. "You said Robert forgave you," I said. "What did he forgive you for exactly?" Randall froze, his hand tightening on the screwdriver. He didn't turn around. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me," I pressed. "Because from where I stand, it looks like you're holding secrets over my husband's grave." He turned slowly, eyes dark. "I didn't kill him, Clara. If that's what you're thinking." My heart skipped. "I never said that." "You didn't have to," he said quietly. "You've been looking at me like that since I got here." "Then prove me wrong," I said. "Tell me the truth." He stared at me for a long time before finally saying, "Robert didn't just get sick. He took on a job, one he shouldn't have. I warned him. I begged him to stop, but he said he needed the money to fix the house before he told you about me helping. He overworked himself into the ground." I swallowed hard. "You expect me to believe that?" "It's the truth," he said, "and I carry that guilt every single day." For the first time, his voice cracked. Something in me softened, just slightly, but not enough to let go. "If that's true, then help me honor him properly," I said. "Help me find peace, not chaos." He nodded, his eyes glistening. "I will, Clara, I promise." But in the pit of my stomach, I still felt uneasy, because something about the way he said it didn't sound like peace at all. And as night fell again, I realized Randall wasn't done, not with me. Not with this house, not with the truth. Something was still hidden in the shadows of Robert's past, and by morning, I would learn just how deep it went. The next morning, I woke before dawn. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that feels like it's waiting for something to happen. Randall's room door was open, empty. His duffel bag was gone from the chair, and the kitchen smelled faintly of coffee, but the pot was cold. For a fleeting moment, I thought maybe he'd left. Maybe the storm he brought with him had finally passed. But on the kitchen table, next to Robert's letter, lay another envelope. My name again, this time in Randall's handwriting. My heart thudded in my chest. I sat down, tearing it open with trembling hands. "Clara, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. But before I leave, you deserve the whole truth. The part I've been too much of a coward to say out loud. Robert didn't just take money from me. He took a promise too, one that involved your beach house. He wanted to protect you, so he made a deal with me, one he thought would die with him. But I can't let it die with a lie. There's something buried under the old oak tree behind the house. You need to see it." The page ended there. I stared at it, my heart pounding, then turned to look out the kitchen window. The oak tree stood tall and ancient in the morning fog, its roots gnarled, its shadow long and dark. I grabbed my coat and headed outside. The air was cold enough to sting my lungs. The ground was damp with dew as I stepped onto the grass. The shovel was still by the garden shed. I picked it up and walked to the oak, my pulse hammering. When I started digging, the sound of the shovel striking the soil echoed across the empty yard. Birds scattered from the branches above. I dug until I hit something solid. Wood. My stomach twisted. I dropped to my knees and brushed away the dirt. It was a small wooden chest, old and weathered, the latch rusted but still holding. I pried it open with the edge of the shovel. Inside were stacks of old papers, legal documents, faded photographs, a small velvet pouch, and at the bottom, a folded letter in Robert's handwriting again. My hands shook as I unfolded it. "Clara, if you're reading this, then Randall told you the truth. I didn't want you to find this while I was alive, because I was ashamed. The beach house wasn't ours in the way I told you it was. It was Randall's, bought in his name, hidden in a trust. I asked him to keep it secret because I wanted to surprise you. I thought I'd buy it back quietly before you ever knew. But the illness came faster than I expected. I couldn't make it right. Randall made mistakes, yes, but so did I. If you can find it in your heart to forgive him, please do. He was my friend, and he's lost more than anyone. Nose, my throat closed. The photographs beneath. The letter showed Robert and Randall, years ago, standing together in front of the beach. House, smiling, young, hopeful. I pressed my fingers to my lips, tears blurring my vision. Then I heard the sound of tires crunching on the gravel driveway. I turned. A dark sedan was pulling up, slow and deliberate. Randall stepped out, his expression heavy but calm. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said quietly. "I just needed to give you time to find it on your own." I stood, the letter still in my hand. "You could have told me the truth from the beginning." "I know," he said, "but I didn't think you'd believe me." "Why bury it, Randall? Why hide everything like this?" He looked past me at the oak tree, his eyes distant, because Robert made me promise not to destroy his memory. "He said the truth would hurt you. I wanted to honor that, but—" He paused, swallowing hard. I couldn't live with the lies anymore. I studied him, the lines on his face, the way his shoulders slumped under invisible weight. "You said you were in trouble," I said. "What kind of trouble?" He hesitated. "Financial. I made bad investments. I was desperate. But I swear to you, I never came here to steal from you, Clara. I came to make peace, to finish what Robert started." I looked down at the box. "This doesn't fix what you did back then, but maybe it's a start." He nodded, his eyes glistening. "I'll leave if that's what you want. I just wanted to tell you before I go. Robert loved you more than life itself. Everything he did, even the lies, were to keep you safe." The words cracked something inside me. I wanted to hate him, but the pain had worn me thin. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said. "Not yet. I don't expect you to," he said softly. "Just don't let the past turn your heart to stone. Robert wouldn't want that." He turned to leave, but I called after him. "Wait." He stopped. "You said the beach house was in your name," I said. "Does that mean it's legally yours?" He looked down, then nodded slowly. "Technically, yes, but I signed it over to you years ago. The deed's in that box. It's yours now. Always was meant to be." I felt my breath catch. "Why would you do that?" "Because I owed Robert that much," he said. "And I owe you even more." He gave a small, tired smile. "Goodbye, Clara." Then he got into the car and drove away, the sound fading into the distance until only the wind through the trees remained. I stood there a long time, the morning sun breaking through the fog, warming my face. When I went back inside, I placed both letters, Robert's and Randall's, in a frame on the mantel. Side by side, two men, both flawed, both bound by promises and guilt, both part of the story I'd been trying so hard to forget. But as I looked at their words, something shifted inside me. A strange peace, fragile but real. Over the next few weeks, I worked on the garden. I cleaned the house, opened the curtains, let the light in again. The beach house, the memories, even the pain. It all felt lighter somehow, like the ghosts had finally been given rest. One evening, I sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the trees. The air smelled of jasmine and sea salt. I whispered softly, "I forgive you, Robert. And you too, Randall." A single tear slipped down my cheek, not from pain this time, but release. Just then, the mail truck pulled up. The driver handed me an envelope. No return address. Inside was a simple note, written in familiar handwriting. Randall's. "Thank you for letting me tell the truth. I've started over, somewhere quiet, somewhere far. I don't know if we'll ever see each other again, but please know this. I kept my promise to Robert, and now I've made a new one to myself. To live right." Randall, I smiled faintly. For the first time in a long time, I believed him. That night, as the stars shimmered above, I sat in the garden surrounded by the sound of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves, and I felt Robert there, not as a memory heavy with guilt, but as a whisper of love, forgiveness, and peace. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was ours. I closed my eyes and whispered into the stillness, "Good night, my love. We're finally home." The wind carried the scent of roses through the air, and I knew somehow that both men, one gone, one redeemed, had found the same peace I had. For the first time in years, I slept soundly, and when morning came, it felt like the beginning of something new.